Hi everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Confessions. What started as a normal dinner turned into a public humiliation I'll never forget. There was lipstick on her wine glass, and none on her lips. I noticed that detail as soon as I sat down. She wiped her mouth before I arrived. Why? The waiter poured my water, and her friends didn't even pause their conversation. I wasn't late, but it felt like I had walked into something mid-scene, like I wasn't part of the script anymore. I tried to speak twice. Both times, Claudine talked over me. Not angrily, not even coldly, just like I wasn't there. I should have left the moment I realized I didn't belong at my own wife's table. But I stayed. We ordered. They laughed. Not once did she look me in the eye. Then, somewhere between the bruschetta and her third glass of red, I caught the tail end of a joke I wasn't supposed to hear. God, he even looks like a backup plan. They laughed louder this time. And Claudine? She leaned in, eyes gleaming, lips curved into that smirk I used to think was playful, and said, "You're not worth my time." Loud, like she wanted the whole restaurant to hear. I sat there frozen. One heartbeat. Two. I reached for my wallet. Dropped a crisp bill on the table. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just this. "You're right." And I walked. At 1:06 a.m., while I was sleeping on a friend's couch, my phone rang. The same woman who humiliated me in front of strangers was now sobbing so hard she couldn't form words. What happened after that call? You won't believe it. When I answered the phone, all I could hear was breathing and static. Then, sobbing. Heavy, muffled, the kind that comes from someone who's just realized they lit their own house on fire. "Claudine," I said. No response at first, just a shaky inhale. Then, I didn't mean it. I stayed silent. "I swear to God, I didn't mean it," she whispered, like saying it quieter made it more believable. They were egging me on. I thought it would be funny. That's when I realized she still didn't get it. It wasn't just the words she said at dinner. It was everything behind them. The contempt, the indifference, the complete comfort in humiliating me like I was disposable. And now, because the lights were off and the guests were gone, the mask slipped. And I saw what she was really afraid of. She thought I was going to tell someone. And she had good reason to worry. Because 20 minutes before she called me, one of her friends, one of the very women who had laughed at the table, had messaged me privately. A screenshot. It was a group chat. I wasn't supposed to see it. But I did. "Claudine, watch this. I'm gonna crush his ego tonight in front of everyone. He won't even react. He never does." Then someone replied with a skull emoji. Someone else added, "Don't forget the part where you say he's not worth your time," faced with tears of joy. And she did. Word for word. Scripted. Practiced. Planned. I stared at that screenshot on my phone as she cried through the speaker. She was still talking. Apologizing. Repeating herself. "I was just trying to impress them," she kept saying, like I was the stranger at the table instead of her husband. I didn't interrupt her. I just listened and let her fall apart. And then I said, "I saw your messages." Silence. Dead, hollow silence. Not even breathing on the line. Then the call dropped. After the call dropped, I sat in the dark with the screenshot still glowing on my phone. It felt radioactive in my hand, like truth itself had a temperature. My stomach was tight, not from rage but from that slow, sinking ache you get when something ends and you're still trying to pretend it didn't. I didn't call her back. I didn't need to. She knew exactly what I saw. And for the first time in what felt like years, I had nothing left to say. About 10 minutes later, the messages started. First one, "Please answer." Second one, "That screenshot is fake." Then came a voice message. Her tone had changed completely, no longer crying. Now controlled. Calculating. The same voice she used with customer service or at parent-teacher meetings. The voice of someone trying to contain a spill. "Hey, look, I just want to explain, okay? Things were taken out of context. The girls and I, we joke around. You know that. Don't make this into something it's not. You're being emotional." I sat there listening, letting each word layer itself over the last like wet concrete, hardening into something heavier than the truth itself. Denial. The gall of it. She tried to gaslight me with her own words still on the screen. I didn't reply. I turned my phone off. But not before forwarding the screenshot to my personal email, just in case she deleted it from the chat somehow. I didn't trust her not to try. At around 2:30 a.m., I heard knocking at the door. Not soft. Not panicked. Calm. Measured. I watched through the peephole. She was standing there, arms folded, not crying, just waiting. I didn't open it. I didn't even breathe. She knocked again, then pulled out her phone. Another text came in. I'm not leaving. We need to talk about this now before it gets worse. Worse? What exactly was she afraid of? That I'd leave? That I'd show someone else the messages? Or that the image she'd built for herself, confident, adored, in control, was starting to rot under a layer of public truth? Because here's the thing she didn't know. I wasn't the only one she humiliated that night. And I wasn't the only one who left that dinner wondering what she was really hiding. She was still outside when the sun started to bleed into the sky. I didn't sleep. Not out of principle. I just couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice again, repeating that phrase like a knife dragged across tile. You're not worth my time. I thought she might give up and go home. Instead, she sat on the steps and stared at her phone for hours. Maybe she was watching the group chat, hoping someone would delete the message trail. Or maybe she was waiting for one of her friends to take the fall. But that's the thing about people like her. When the image cracks, they panic. Not because they feel guilt, but because they fear exposure. At 6:41 a.m., I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, I was there last night. I need to tell you something. I can't keep quiet anymore. It was one of her friends, Brielle. We barely knew each other, but she was the quietest at the table, the only one who didn't laugh when Claudine humiliated me. I always thought she didn't like me. Turns out, she just didn't like being part of someone else's cruelty. I hesitated, but replied, "What is this?" She responded almost instantly. It wasn't just a joke. It was a dare. That stopped me cold. Apparently, they had made a game out of it. A humiliation challenge, Brielle called it. Something they joked about in their group chat for weeks. Claudine was supposed to say something awful to me in public, record my reaction, and rate it later in the group. One of the others had done it to her boyfriend the week before. Their twisted little way of feeling powerful. I didn't know what to say. Brielle kept typing. I thought she was just venting. But when I saw how calm she was after you left, I realized she meant every word. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. None of it. I thanked her. Not because I forgave anyone, but because for the first time, someone had acknowledged I wasn't crazy, that the pain wasn't in my head. Meanwhile, outside, Claudine still hadn't left. I watched her through the curtain. She was scrolling through her phone again, her face unreadable. And that's when something strange happened. She stood up, got into her car, and drove off, but not home. I followed her location using the shared family app she forgot we still had enabled. She went straight to Brielle's apartment. 5 minutes later, Brielle sent me one more message. She knows I told you. No context. No explanation. And then silence. After Brielle's final message, everything stopped. No follow-up. No warning. Just dead air. I waited for something. A call, a scream, a storm. But nothing came. It was like she vanished into a different timeline. For the rest of the day, Claudine didn't come back. I didn't know what she said to Brielle or what she threatened her with, but I had a gut feeling it wasn't just words. Claudine had always been clever. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just surgical with her cruelty. By 6 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A new message. From Brielle. No text. Just a voice memo. I put in my headphones and hit play. At first, it was quiet. Then I heard Claudine's voice. Cold. Clipped. Unfamiliar in tone. I know what you sent him, she said. And if you think throwing me under the bus is going to make you look better, think again. I have the screenshots too. You were laughing right along with the rest of them. Then Brielle spoke, and her voice was trembling. I didn't laugh. You went too far, Claudine. He didn't deserve that. You humiliated him like it was a sport. Then Claudine said something that made my stomach turn. Humiliation is only real if they don't expect it. That line, it stayed with me. Because it told me everything I needed to know about how long she'd been playing this game. Not just that night, but maybe for months. Maybe longer. I saved the memo. Emailed it to myself. Then I started digging. I remembered something from a few weeks ago. One of those nights when she said she was out with the girls and didn't come home until 2 a.m. She claimed they were at a spa hotel, but when I checked our shared calendar app, it said she had an appointment that same day, 30 miles in the opposite direction. So I opened our old Home Assistant app, the one we used to monitor the door camera. I'd stopped checking it after we stopped being us. But thankfully, it was still active, still logging. And there it was. A video from 2 weeks ago. Claudine, standing outside our front door at 11:43 p.m. whispering into her phone, saying nothing at first. Then, clearly, no, he doesn't suspect anything. He never does. Then she laughed. Not fake, not tipsy, but relaxed, comfortable. I watched the clip 3 times, each time noticing something new. The way she smiled after saying it. The way she adjusted her hair like she was trying to look good for someone on the other end of the call. Someone who wasn't me. She lied about where she was. She lied about who she was with. And now she was lying to clean up her trail. Only this time, I wasn't sitting quietly in the background. I was watching, and I was done being the joke. The thing about people like Claudine is they don't panic when you catch them lying. They panic when you stop reacting. That's what broke her. Not the fact that I had the screenshots. Not the voice message Brielle sent me. Not even the camera footage from our front door. No, it was the silence. My silence. The one thing she couldn't manipulate. 2 days passed. I didn't reply to her texts. Didn't answer the 3 voicemails she left, each one colder than the last. The crying was gone now. So was the performance. In its place was something worse, calculation. She was strategizing, trying to figure out what I'd do with what I knew. She still thought this was about damage control. She had no idea the damage was already done. On the 3rd night, I got a knock on the door. Not hers, not this time. It was Brielle. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I let her in without a word, and we sat in the kitchen while she tried to gather herself. She's spiraling, she said finally. She's calling everyone, trying to get ahead of it. Telling them you're having a breakdown, that you're unstable, that you're threatening her. I couldn't help but laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. She always said if you control the version of the story people hear first, Brielle added, you win. I nodded slowly. And what happens when they hear the version with evidence? That's when Brielle handed me her phone. Check this. A video. Not one she filmed. One that Claudine sent, by accident. It was clearly meant for someone else. A screen recording of a group chat where she was trying to delete old messages and coach the others on what to say if I confronted them. She didn't realize her screen recorder was still running when she opened her camera app mid-message, giving a full view of her face. Smiling, almost giddy. I'm going to bury him, she typed. He thinks he has leverage, but I'll burn it all down before he embarrasses me. Brielle looked up at me. She sent that to me instead of one of the other girls. Must have tapped the wrong chat window. She deleted it 30 seconds later, but I saved it. My throat went dry. This wasn't just about cruelty anymore. This was about control. She didn't just want to win. She wanted to ruin me on her way out. And I don't think she cared who got hurt in the process. I backed up the video, saved it in 3 different drives. And then, for the first time in days, I replied to one of Claudine's texts. It was just 3 words. We need to talk. She responded in seconds. About what? I replied, about your screen recording, and who you meant to send it to. No response. For the first time, she was quiet. The silence didn't last long. 6 minutes after I sent the message about the screen recording, Claudine responded with exactly the kind of lie that lets you know someone's scared but still pretending not to be. I don't know what you're talking about. Not, that's fake. Not, you're overreacting. Just a flat, sterile denial, like she hoped I hadn't really seen it. Like if she kept her voice neutral enough, I might doubt myself. But I wasn't doubting anything anymore. And that terrified her. I didn't reply. I waited. 2 hours later, she showed up again. This time, I didn't let her sit outside. I opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind me. She looked surprised, probably expected to be let in, to be allowed back into the space she used to dominate. You want to talk? I said. We're talking out here. She crossed her arms. So this is how it's going to be? I just stared at her until she looked away. Let me guess, she added. Brielle sent you something. She's always been jealous of me. You really think she's trustworthy? I almost laughed. The hypocrisy was so thick it felt rehearsed. The woman who led a literal campaign to humiliate me was now throwing mud at the only person who had the decency to come clean. I think, I said slowly, that you're losing control, and you don't know what to do with yourself. Her jaw twitched. I pulled out my phone, showed her the still frame of the video, the one where she's smiling as she types the message about burying me. Color drained from her face. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she had no response. You accidentally sent it to Brielle? I said. She saved it. I backed it up. You can't unsend it, and you can't delete it from my life like you delete messages in a group chat. Still nothing. So I pushed a little further. You recorded yourself trying to orchestrate a cover-up. That's not just mean, Claudine. That's calculated. And stupid. And I have it all. Your voice, your face, your words. Finally, she spoke. What do you want? And just like that, she admitted everything. Not out loud, not in words, but in tone, in posture, in fear. The predator had become the cornered one. I leaned in slightly, not to threaten, just to be sure she heard me. I want you to stop pretending. I want you to understand that you crossed the line between emotional cruelty and digital sabotage. And I want you to realize that the man you thought was weak has been watching, recording, and saving everything. She opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to beg. I didn't let her. You don't get to spin this, I said. You're not in charge of this story anymore. Then I walked back inside. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even lock it. Because for the first time since this began, I didn't need to protect myself from her. She was finally the one on the outside. The next morning, I woke up to no texts, no calls, no games. Just peace. The kind of peace that doesn't feel loud or victorious, but still feels real. Like something finally stopped pressing down on your chest. I sat on the edge of my bed for a while, phone in hand, half expecting another excuse, another manipulation. But Claudine didn't reach out. She knew it was over. Not just the marriage. That ended the moment she weaponized humiliation. No, I mean the power she thought she had. The control. The mask she wore so tightly it started to crack the moment I stopped playing along. A few days later, a mutual friend told me Claudine was taking a break from social media. She called it a mental reset. I didn't comment. People like her never tell the full truth. They just dress it up and sell it to whoever's still listening. But me? I moved out of that apartment, got a smaller place with no shared memories. I took time off work. I traveled a bit. Nothing dramatic, just far enough to remember what it's like to breathe without checking my tone or walking on eggshells. I even reconnected with my sister. She said I sounded different. Lighter. Like I'd stopped apologizing for things I never did wrong. And maybe I have. Maybe that dinner, the wine, the laughter, the scripted cruelty. Maybe that was the moment I stopped being a side character in my own life. Maybe it had to break that loudly for me to finally hear myself again. So no, this isn't a revenge story. It's a freedom story. And if you've ever sat across a table from someone who smiled while cutting you down, you know what kind of power it takes to walk away instead of shout back. And sometimes, that's the loudest thing you'll ever do. Have you ever witnessed something shocking at a dinner or party that completely changed how you saw someone? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your wildest or most unforgettable real-life moments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story resonated with you.